That's what she looks like with 6 liters on board. Oh boy. It looks heavy and I haven't even picked it up yet. I know it's going to be heavy. Hey, all right. Hello everybody. This here's Matt, otherwise known as the Bearded Frog out on the trail. And I thought today it would be great to unpack my pack after getting back from the winter 2-week session of southbound Utah down to Flagstaff. As many of you know, I completed the 800 miles of the Arizona Trail in 3 segments over the last 17 or 18 months. And I just got back last Monday. Here's my bag. It might be a little discombobulated because of packing stuff for the airport, but most of it should be here. So let's give it an unpack and see what I brought and took with me. All right, trekking poles. I have black diamond trekking poles. Right now I can't get them off because they're taped. A little trick I do at the airport to make sure that they don't come completely loose in travel. But I have black diamond trekking poles, aluminum with cork handles. I've had this set for the entire Arizona Trail, and I also have a little phone case holder for doing take 2 on this gear preview or post analysis from the Arizona Trail. As I was saying, black diamond, aluminum, cork grip, blah, blah, blah. As I was saying, black diamond, aluminum, cork grip trekking poles. I do have this little plastic thing attached here to attach my cell phone for doing selfies. I can set it up, plug it in the ground, and use it like a stick and just do timed photo shots. We have that. On the front of my pack, there's a 10-liter expansion there. I took Crocs. I took these with me in the spring, northbound, and in the fall. Important to get your feet out of the shoes and socks. In the winter, southbound, I took an extra hat, a very heavy hat, and a set of fingered mittens for very, very cold days. I did use them a couple days, in the mornings mostly. I have a very inexpensive pack cover, which, by the way, leaked. I will be considering a different pack cover. I also, because I am using the Gossamer Gear Gorilla 50-liter pack, it's 40 inside and 10 on the outside here. I'm using also pack liner. A lot of times I don't actually use this when I'm out there unless I'm expecting bad weather that day. I have a couple of these. I think you can get a couple of them from Gossamer for $5 a pair. The first 2 times I went on the trail, northbound, I did not have these. This is rain gear. Outdoor Research Helium rain jacket. I'll try to provide weights for all these items down here in the corner after I'm done. And a set of REI rain pants. These I did use, not very often, but once or twice. The jacket I used quite frequently. In the bottom, I also have a mosquito net. I never used it on the Arizona Trail at all. And an extra pack liner. Just kept them available just in case. Little extra weight I could probably get rid of, at least on the Arizona Trail. Side pockets. My right side pocket, I kept 2 liters of water. I think in the spring I was carrying 1.5 liters and 1 liter. So I had 2 bottles in there. They'll both fit. Gives you a little bit extra capacity. And also, In the fall, I carried a 700 milliliter. In the spring, I carried a 1 liter bottle in there with a straw. I didn't take the straw piece that goes on here, and I regretted not having it. I like this water thing on the front. It's from Gossamer gear also. What I don't like is it's hard to get this in and out. It requires 2 hands. So I basically just took this top off, put on a regular sport cap on there, and took a straw right through the middle. Just a flexible straw. On the front, this is the pocket I kept my cell phone in on the outside most of the time. I kept sunglasses in here in the winter. During the summer months, I kept a tube of sunscreen in here. Neutrogena, zinc. Most of the summer, I just kept either the glasses on my forehead like this or over, one or the other. And the other pocket on the side, instead of putting water or temp holes, I actually use a jet boil. I love the jet boil. It's simple. There's a lot of cooking options. I gotta be out there. I've gotta be honest with you out there. I have a little spoon, titanium. In the top, I open this rascal up. I got the stove. A little scrubby. Most of the time I just use this for boiling water for those meals, you know, the backpacker meals and stuff. But if I'm cooking rice or ramen, I'm actually using the pot and cleaning it out with a bandana that I have stored in the bottom here. I like the little 8 ounces because they fit right in there, one complete unit. Again, I think this is a jet boil zip. Here's my bandana I keep in the bottom for cleaning. And inside that, I have wrapped up a little mini Bic lighter. This was the second lighter I used on the Arizona Trail. I did have to pick one up at the Grand Canyon. And the bottom is also a cup. I use that for drinking coffee a lot of the times when I do have coffee on the trail. Not very often on the Arizona Trail did I drink coffee, but I did in the fall. The spring, I probably wouldn't even bring it. You're gonna be up so early, it's gonna be so hot, the heat from the sun just wakes you up. I mean, I'd skip coffee in the spring, unless you like cold coffee. In that other pocket, I did keep my tent stakes in a bag, separate. I like to do that, and a little temperature sensor that I keep here. That the battery did die from the cold, actually. All right. Up in the top here, there's a zipper section. This is where I kept all my water stuff. In the spring, it was okay to keep my Sawyer Squeeze, and I had a CNOC 3-liter water bag. Word of caution, you're going to need an extra little cup. When you get one of these bottles at the airport or wherever, cut it. Save the bottom half. You're going to need a scooping cup. It'll slide right up underneath of the existing bottle. If it's a 1 liter, use a 1 liter. 700, use a 700. But you're going to need it to fill these sometimes. 2 liter would be good, probably. I like the 3 liter in case I needed the extra storage capacity. I could just fill this rascal up. Throw it right over the top of this full. And I would just walk with it. There's only one time I needed that, and that was the area north of Manning Camp. Down in the southern section, central I guess it would be. It's the only area I needed extra water capacity. And I think I carried 3 liters, 4 liters, 5. I think I carried about 5 liters. It's the only time I needed it. I did run out of water on my way up to Manning Camp though. I stopped short at the other campground. The Sawyer Squeeze, I do keep that in the top. Everybody's got a hack for this thing. They're using the sport water caps to back flush this thing. I tell you what, you're drinking out of cow ponds out there. They call them tanks. They're not metal tanks, don't get it wrong. They are cow ponds. They have large cow patties, sometimes in them, sometimes dead animals in them, whatever. You want to flush this thing every time you take water, unless it's out of a spring on the Arizona Trail. Promise me. And I don't promise me, no, promise yourself, because you're the one that's going to end up with the clogged filter. I carry the syringe. It's there for a great reason. It doesn't take long. And in the wintertime, you don't want this rascal to freeze either. So, every time I get water, I flush it out. I run water through it, give it a good shake, and actually in the wintertime, I even just run air through it to drain it, because you got to keep this rascal in your sleeping bag. Do not forget, filter in your sleeping bag with you when you sleep. And during the day, the morning, when it's freezing, oh my goodness. Up top here, it's gonna freeze. You're gonna wanna keep this in a pouch close to your body, because it will freeze sitting up there. I actually had this filled with ice just sitting on top several days. So I was glad that I tucked that in close. I also keep an extra sport bottle cap. This is the little hack I was talking about, where you can replace a sport cap. You stick a hose through there, piece of Tygon tubing. It can be something off of a, what do you call that? The replacement hose from a, I don't know, I've never used one, but I know a Camelback. Camelback replacement hoses with the little valve on it. You don't need the valve, just get the replacement hose, cut the valve off. You'll have a couple of these rascals. I regretted not taking this with me, because taking that bottle out, it's annoying. Taking it out's not annoying, putting it back in's annoying. That's all I had up in the top of the dome there. I'll pull these out. I had a puppy. This is like an 850 fill. This is a bougie one, LL Bean. It's very nice, red. And the hat and gloves, I kept inside of it. I didn't hike in this. I pretty much only used it at night, at the campsite, setting up my tent. In the tent, I'd be halfway in the sleeping bag wearing this. And I just kept my gloves and my hat, those little woolies, just inside the pockets. That's it. Electronics. I use these cheap waterproof bags from Walmart. You got to replace them every once in a while. They do get wear marks in them, holes in them. I think this one's got a hole right there. You can see. So he's going to get swapped out. And for whatever reason, I have some Starkist tuna in there. Not sure why. Battery. I have an Anchor. This thing is 1 pound by itself. This is the USB version, but I can charge 3 items at the same time. It's a 26.8, something like that, 26.7 kilowatt hour charger. And this goes a whole week with me. 5 to 7 days you're in town. I never had to worry about anything. Charged my phone every day. Charged my Garmin that I used to leave hanging over here. And every day for a week, and I did not even use half the power in the bank. Might be excessive, but it's better than carrying 2 or 3 of these things. There's my Garmin Mini I carried. Cheap set of iPhone headsets, that way I didn't have to charge them, the wireless ones. I had a little mini adapter with a 400 gig USB drive that I did not use since I've upgraded my phone to an iPhone 13. I had enough capacity to store videos and all of my pictures for 2 weeks for sure. But you may want to think about alternative storage. Little charger cord for my Garmin. Charger cord for my iPhone. And the charger cord and the block. The block is not in here. It's actually plugged into the wall in the house there. But I had a 2-output charger used to charge. Where did I throw that rascal? Anyway, takes 2 outputs to 2 inputs to charge the battery, and that was it. My Anchor battery pack. That's it for my electronics. That's all I carried. And the iPhone. Oh, here it is right here. Yeah. This thing's got 2 inputs for charging and then 3 outputs, USB outputs. All right, what else we got in here? Tent. I was storing the tent on the top most of the time. This is the tent footprint. I paid extra for that rascal. This was on the back of my pack. I stored it inside so it wouldn't get lost. But I have crampons. They just go over your tennis shoes. They come in 2 models, by the way, one for shoes and one for boots. Make sure you get the right ones. Depending on what you're wearing, I wore trail runners. So, but I did carry them, and I carried the pack they were in, so nothing got cut, scarred, scratched, dented. A little bit of weight there that I wish I didn't have to carry. I did not use these. One of the things I probably wouldn't take back on the Arizona Trail. My tent. I got lazy at the end. It's not in a stuff sack anymore. I noticed a couple other hikers doing the same thing. They were just cramming their tent into the top of their bag. This is a 3F UL Gear Landshan 2-person tent. It sets up with trekking poles and a couple stakes. I like it. It's inexpensive. It's $150, but it's a nylon tent. When it's wet, it stretches. You're gonna have to get out, tighten it back up. It's a double walled tent, so you got to make sure it's tight all the time, especially if you're getting rain and high winds. I did not have any problems with the tent at all. Here's the bag. I hiked with Injinji toe socks. I had 2 pairs. One I kept on the back of front of my bag, and every couple hours I'd switch them out with a fresh pair. And I only washed them when I was in town. I'd wear 2 pairs of socks the entire week. They got dirty. And when I got to Grand Canyon, I washed everything. And then again, I washed them at Flagstaff. And Injinji socks, I can't go backwards on those. I used to hunt. Well, I hunt too. But I used to hike only with Darn Toughs. But I gotta be honest, I get blisters with Darn Toughs. Right now, I've only had 1 occurrence where I've gotten a blister in Injinji socks, and it has nothing to do with the toes. It has to do with my heel and how tight my shoes were, or loose. Darn Toughs, my 3rd pair of socks, I use them to sleep in, and when the other 2 are completely wet or frozen. I did use them one day to hike in, about a half a day. Ha ha. Dirty girl gaiters, man. If you're hiking in tennis shoes, trail runners, I don't know how you go without these things. These things saved me, and still on occasion I ended up with very small pebbles that went through the tennis shoe holes. But this will save the blisters. Anytime you think you got something in your shoe, check it. This will reduce the amount of times you take your shoe off in the middle of the day. I promise. What do they say about that? What's that? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, I don't know how many blisters were a pound, but this is definitely really, really light. Again, I'll give you the weight. Probably only an ounce. I had also an extra pair of Under Armour pants underneath. I only use these on really, really cold days with my pants that I was wearing underneath. I wouldn't wear my underwear, I would wear these instead. As far as underwear, I was just using plain Hanes boxer length, boxer length underwear. 3/4 length, I think there are. They're kind of form-fitting. Anyway, those were good to have. I only used them once or twice. Really, really cold mornings. My food bag. I have an Ursack. This is a pretty big bag. I'm going to tell you the problem with a pretty big bag. You tend to fill the daggone thing. This bag fits 7 days worth of food. 7 days worth of food for me was about 10 pounds, including the weight of the bag. I'll give you the weight of the bag. I'm going to figure it out. I also had a bear line in there. It's a little bit of a bigger diameter than most people use for a bear cord. But, and then I had an old tent stake bag. I would fill up and throw it. Honestly, I never hung a bear bag on the Arizona Trail at all. Both times in the spring going northbound and southbound. However, southbound I did see a couple bears north of the Grand Canyon. So on one night, just after that sighting, I actually decided to tie this around the base of a big pine tree. I didn't hang it, I just tied it, and I didn't have to worry about rodents because it was winter time. Wasn't really too concerned about it, but it could happen. Rodents could get in there, I guess. But you just want to keep this about, I don't know, a couple 100 feet away from your tent if you're in a bear area, for sure. The red bag. This was my, sort of like my medicine cabinet, my poop kit. There's a lot going on in this bag. Let's talk about it. There's some Huggies. You want to try not to bury these. If you're burying toilet paper out there in your cat hole, try not to bury these. They take a lot longer, probably, to decompose. I did end up carrying out toilet paper and some of these on days, especially when the ground was frozen. If you're going into winter, it's a consideration. You're going to have to think about that. Sometimes the ground's frozen. You're going to have to pack out your TP and your baby wipes. I like the Huggies. They're a little bit bigger than the generic ones. This was my kit, a poop kit, toilet paper. I was running low, you can see here, and some hand sanitizer. That's all I kept in there. Oh, and the wipes. The wipes were in there as well. Sunscreen, I did bring this along, throw it in here. Like I said, in the spring, I had the sunglasses up here most of the time, or on the head. And this was in here. Somebody on one of the Arizona Trail pages recommended this Neutrogena Sheer Zinc. It's 50, but it goes on you. It's white. That white zinc, it stays on you though. That you put it on one day, you probably only need to do touch-ups every second or third day with this stuff. Got to be honest with you. But the sun is something fierce out there. Do not underestimate it. It can ruin a hike. All right. Every once in a while I get a knee issue, so I just carry a little knee brace. Didn't have any issues this time where I needed this. Toothpaste. I did have a bag that the toothpaste, oh, here we go, here it is. Toothbrush, toothpaste, little minis, this little bag. In this bag, I had a couple bandages, a nail file. I don't use nail clippers. Little A&D for the chafeness, and once you get cleaned up, put that on night before you go to bed. You're fine. I have aqua tabs Somebody out on the trail gave these to me in the spring of the year. Thank you so much for that. But if you encounter water where there's something dead in it, you may want to consider having a few tabs as backup. That happened to me. I had to pass on water and I was very thirsty. I have tiny bandages. This is kind of like a little stitch. What do you call that? Yeah, I forget what you call them. But if you get a gash or something and you need to stitch it, that'll help. I also have some Neosporin in case you get a cut. You want to avoid infection out there if you can. And lastly, I have an emergency backup lighter. I had to use this because I said my mini ran out. But also, what I do with this emergency backup lighter, let me stick all this back in here. I wrap some tape around it. Yep, this is Leuco tape. I wrap it around it, and that's where I keep my Leuco tape. So I can unroll a small piece, cut it off with my pocket knife that I keep in this front pocket down there, and throw that on my foot or my elbow, whatever I scratched up, cover it up. This stuff stays on for a long time. Leuco tape. It's fantastic. But that's just where I decide to wrap it. It stays dry. It's in one of these Walmart bags again, waterproof bags. I think you buy a set, you get a red, a yellow, and a blue. They're different sizes, maybe. Maybe they're different sizes, yeah. And the yellow one's a little bit bigger. I think it's 3 of them for 10 bucks. That's basically my toiletries, first aid. Oh, I did have a bag of medicines in there. I'm not sure if it was in there. It might be in the house. But I carried some Advil PM and ibuprofen, a couple anti-diarrheal tabs, a few Tums. I think that's it. Buff. I carried a buff. You always got to have a buff. It's used for everything, from a bandana when it's sweating to a neck buff when it's cold or when you're getting pelted by freezing rain, hail. You can roll it up all the way up to here. Great protection. And it adds a little layer of warmth. All right. I bought some cards for the missus that I never actually mailed, but I have them here. I can give them to her now. Seal socks. Sealskin socks. These are supposed to be waterproof socks, and they are waterproof to a certain extent. I never wore them on my feet. This was in case I had to walk in deep snow. You never know what you're going to get in the fall if you leave late, like I did at the end of October, November. There were a couple inches that came down, but it wasn't to the point where I needed to have these on in those low temperatures. I did, however, use them for gloves, because the gloves I was using completely drenched through, and then the weather got cold, and then they started to freeze, and I would have hated to stop hiking because my hands were cold. Trekking poles were necessary because it was so muddy, and windy. You know, that pack was just pushing me on. The wind was just pushing my pack like a sail all over the place. So needed the hands and I needed the trekking poles. I used these for a good half a day, and it saved me from having to set up camp early and losing you know, 8 or 10 miles that day. But here we go. One thing I would add to this for wintertime camping is I'm looking for something along the lines of like a sealskin or a waterproof sort of mitten. If I could get a mitten to complement this, if I'm going out in the winter again and taking these, I'm taking some type of waterproof mitten. All right, my sleeping system. I have a Thermarest Neo Air. This bad boy is light, it's comfortable, it's easy to fold up. I fold it differently now. Instead of the long roll, I actually do folds with this thing. I could do a whole video just on this rascal only. But basically, I'm just undoing this lock, folding it over in half, squeezing the air out, folding it over in half again, squeezing the air out, folding it in half again, squeezing the air out, and then I'm rolling it up. I forget the R value on this thing. I think it's like 5 point something, 5.6, 5.8. I had one night where I was actually sleeping on snow. That I could feel it in my hips a little bit. This pack's got a little rubber pad here, little sit pad built into it. Full unorganized. I simply stuck this underneath my hips, underneath this mattress, solved the problem. Comes with a little sit pad. Solved my problem. My hip wasn't cold anymore. I'm a side sleeper. I'm not going to put it back in the bag right now, but I'll give you the weight of this too, and the R value. My most important piece of equipment this entire trip. I cannot say enough about the Sea to Summit sleeping bag liners. They come in 3 different ratings, by the way. This one's extreme, I think it's the middle. It's reportedly supposed to increase your sleeping bag comfort by 25 degrees. Now, because my sleeping bag was not all it was cracked up to be, I had to rely on this most nights. There were very few nights that I did not use this. This made me extremely comfortable. And a couple nights I had to sweat and I didn't use it, so I climbed completely out of it. But this made everything wonderful. And if you're doing anything in the spring of the year, early spring, back east, in the mountains at elevation, I recommend this if you don't have a sleeping bag that's proven, I mean proven, to keep you warm. Again, that's the middle of the road one. They do have one that is rated at a higher level. Sea to Summit, I can't say enough about this rascal too. This was not my most important gear, but it was one of the ones that made sleeping at night the most comfortable. This little air pillow, this little pillow, common, a lot of people use them. You can get it right at REI. This is the Sea to Summit Eros Premium Regular. They got a bigger one, it comes bigger. But I find, since the sleeping bag I use is a mummy style, curved at the top, this fits right up in the top of that, stays in there, I never lose it. I did go to a sleeping bag that, I've always used a sleeping bag that was a mummy bag. I used to use synthetic ones, but now I'm using a down one. Anyway, Sea to Summit Eros Regular. So easy to fold up, go down, adjust it, don't put as much air in it, it's more comfortable. All right, and my last big item. It's inside of a Sea to Summit compression sack. I don't honestly know if this compression sack is waterproof. I thought it was when I bought it, but I'm not certain. This is a 10-liter compression sack, perfect for the sleeping bag. I not only have my sleeping bag in here, but I'm keeping my sleeping clothes in here as well. Let's open it up, talk about it. I'm going to verify that this thing's waterproof, because my next trail, it's going to be a lot of rain, and I definitely need to think waterproof. If it's not, I'm going to replace it with a waterproof one. My sleeping bag. I have an REI down Magma 15-degree Fahrenheit bag. You see that? This is a little concern for me. I'm going to share it. 15 degrees, it says. It's down. It's a mummy bag. I love mummy bags, by the way. I feel secure in these things, like a little cocoon. You do not want to get this wet. On a very, very cold night, you will be in trouble. Inside this bag, I keep my sleeping clothes. I don't always have sleeping clothes like this, but when I know the temperature is going to dip down below 40, I'm always going to have sleeping clothes. I have a hat. It has a little pocket in it for a hot hand. I didn't carry any hot hands, but in an emergent need, you can put a hot hand in there and keep your head warm. I also had some Omni wool. Never wore these except to sleep in. They're very warm. They're wool based. Wool and some synthetic material run together. I don't know how heavy they are. I'll try to find out. Maybe I'll weigh them for you. I think I bought these at Sam's Club, but they're basically like a merino wool. Omni wool, merino wool, same thing, I believe. However, let's get back to the sleeping bag, because I showed you that says 15 degree right there, right? And I read it. I read the reviews on it. As far as weight, it was good weight, 15 degrees. As long as you use a pad with an R value of 5 or greater, which is this pad I have, the Neo Air X Therm. And I thought life was going to be great. God, I'm so glad I brought that Sea to Summit Extreme liner. It is just a simple nylon sack. I think it's polyester actually. I had 2 nights of extreme discomfort. And I used that and solved the problem. Now, something I don't like about this bag that I will be going back to REI is it has this little neck unit here. When you get in there, this neck unit wraps up and keeps everything insulated. This thing tore. It tears pretty easy. It's just got a couple inches of thread holding it. I don't know what it had holding it, but basically it tore and all the down is leaking out of my bag now. So I need to replace that. I think I'm going to keep the same bag as long as I use the liner. Depends on the weight of it. But one of the things that I happen to notice, let's find it. Gosh, I've got to find this thing. Is when I opened up this bag and I look at the inside of the bag. What does the inside of the bag say? Temperature range. Comfort, T-comfort, down to 28 degrees. Transition, down to 16 degrees. Temperature limit, where it says you're at risk, below 16 degrees. The outside of the bag says 12 degrees. There's a problem here. And I wasn't aware of it. That's why I'm bringing it up to anybody else that may be looking at this REI Magma sleeping bag, down sleeping bag. I like it otherwise, but just be clear, this is really a 30-degree sleeping bag. Just gonna be honest there. Without that liner, I probably would have had to get a ride back off trail to fix this. Really would have bummed me out if my hike would have been messed up like that. But it wasn't. So there you have it. I believe that's everything in my bag. My bag was a little heavy on this trip because of the extra gear that I wouldn't normally bring. Planned for 7 days of food in between, which made it really, really heavy. This bag is actually not really comfortable beyond 30 pounds. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you got a base weight around 18 pounds, it's great. I wouldn't exceed 30 pounds with this bag. And I'm pretty sure that I was at least 34, maybe 35 pounds. One more thing. Two more things. Hip belt pocket. These are my gloves that I was wearing most of the time. They're head. They're little, you know, just little gloves. Polyester. Kind of got some stretch to them. Very comfortable most of the time. But if they're wet, it's cold, freezing, your fingers are going to get cold in these. It's not going to be enough. Also in that pocket, I kept the headlight. I used this Slonic. It's 1000. I think it's 1000. There's the rating on it. But it had 5 different levels. So if you turn it on and hold the button, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that was 30% power. I only had to charge this thing one time the entire trail, and I used it to come out of the Grand Canyon in the dark. And it's still running. It says on the 1000 watts or 1000 lumens, it will run for 8 hours, or no, 3 hours. On its lowest capacity, it will run for 8 hours. It is rechargeable. Little USB interface there. Plug it into my pack. I did recharge it when I was in the Grand Canyon. And then it also has like some kind of emergency mode or something where it'll flash. I don't know how to make that work. Anyway, that's the headlight. It's not the lightest thing in the world, but it's rechargeable. Very bright when I need it to be. I'll give you a weight on that also. And what else did I keep in there? Extra buff. Chapstick. Get yourself some chapstick with SPF. Because some days I didn't actually put sunscreen all over my face, you know what I mean? But this, if you get it with the SPF, it's plain flavor really. Original. Kind of like a vanilla. Moisturizing. But I also used it for a little bit of sunscreen right around here. Perfect. You don't want to stop walking to reapply and all that jazz? Here you go. Or you don't want to look like a white ghost because you got all the other sunscreen on you with the zinc in it. And every once in a while, the other thing was I'd run into, I'd get sunburn up on my forehead. Between my glasses and my hat, like this little area right here, I'd start to feel it. So now I just do a little like this right here going on. Completely fix the problem. That's all I had in the right pocket. The left pocket, I kept snacks for the day and drink mixes. I used a lot of Propel. In fact, I got sick of Propel actually when I was out there, and I switched to Mio and a couple other basic generic energy type things, Walmart basic ones. But yeah, that's all I used in this pocket here. Snacks and drink mixes. Hey, that's it. That's my gear. That's all I took on the Arizona Trail. There's a couple more things that I had with me in the spring that I'll show you. I think it was a pair of shorts, a different shirt, a pad that I had for 4 or 5 days and I sent once I got back to Patagonia. And I had a different sleeping pad as well. Different sleeping system. Yeah. I'll show you that here in a little bit. Maybe in another video. That's it. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned. I got a big announcement for 2023. I'm going to be out on the trail again, and I'm going to be making an announcement soon. Go ahead and hit like, subscribe if you want to get those updates, and follow me as I vlog and blog and write and carry on in a video format. I'm going to make it more entertaining. It's going to get more entertaining for sure. I'm getting better at this jazz. All right, y'all, thanks. Thanks for watching.